Jack and I belong to a mutual admiration society because one of the airplanes that I did not get to fly during my career, he's right, I've been fortunate to fly quite a few. I never had a chance to fly the Harrier, and I would love to have gotten my hands on a Harrier jump jet. So I'm going to be kind to him tonight, because maybe I can finagle a ride out of him at some point here in the future. But let me say good evening to everyone, and what a privilege it is to be here this evening. I was trying to get some thoughts together and jot some notes down to be sure they don't forget anything, but I'm not going to worry about notes. I'm just going to talk just for a few minutes. For those of you who looked at the program and saw my name as the guest speaker, well, that's a little bit of a misnomer. If you came to hear a speech tonight, you're going to be disappointed. I'm not going to give a speech, nor do I think this is the occasion for a formal speech. But I will say again what a privilege it is to be here. I'm grateful to the Gateway Eagles for inviting me up. Thanks to Executive Beechcraft for hosting this function. Congratulations to the Gateway Eagles on the 10th year anniversary. I think that's outstanding. So, a round of applause is in order. I was here this afternoon for the fly-in, and from my perspective, I think the fly-in was very, very successful. I'm hearing roughly around 70 students were flown today. I think that's very, very good. What the Gateway Eagles is doing is just tremendous in exposing our young people to aviation, and then through aviation, hopefully our young people will embrace education. Hopefully also they will pursue aviation as a career field, not necessarily as pilots, but mechanics, engineers, technicians, and so on. I started my aviation career, I guess 30 years ago, was 1973, when I graduated from Florida State University and decided to go into aviation officer candidate school. Now my story is a little bit different in that I am probably the only person to fly in space that has a fine arts degree. I actually have a degree in music. That's right. I went to Florida State University to be a music major. When I was a kid, growing up in Miami, Florida, I was always interested in technology. I was the kind of kid who was always building things. I used to open up my toys at Christmas time to see how they worked. I would save money and buy batteries and light bulbs. I would cut the Christmas tree lights up and hook it up to batteries. But I didn't know anything about engineering. I didn't know anything about physics. I thought an engineer drove a train. When I went to college, people like my neighborhood went to college one of two ways. You were either an athlete or you were a musician. Okay? And you could, and when you studied, if you were an athlete, you still got your degree in education, so that you could come back and teach and perhaps coach. Same thing with musicians. You know, you got your degree in music education, you could come back home and become a band director while you played music at night. I figured I better major in music because that was the thing that I did best. My music was better than my basketball. But college opened up, broadened my horizons, opened up new experiences for me, and I began to understand what engineering is all about. And I started taking calculus, physics, electrical engineering. I took all that stuff as an overload. I remember taking 18, 19, 20, and sometimes 21 hours a quarter. That's right, I'd have to get special permission to take an overload because I was taking 20 and 21 hours a quarter because I was taking calculus in addition to music theory. And when I graduated, I decided that I wanted to do something in technology. And for some reason, don't ask me why, because to this day it's a mystery, I started thinking about aviation. I always was interested in airplanes. And I thought, well, the only way I'm going to fly airplanes or go back to school and get an engineering degree, perhaps, is through the military, because the military will fund your flight training if you qualify, will fund you to go to school if you qualify. I went down and took the test for aviation officer candidate school. Just drove in the office one day and said, tell me about the flight program. They gave me the battery of tests, and because I had all that calculus in college, I did real well on the test, had a date for aviation officer candidate school, reported to ALCS, and started flight training. Now, for those of you who don't know what aviation officer candidate school is, if you ever seen a movie with Richard Gere and Lou Gossett called An Officer and a Gentleman, yeah, so that movie depicts the program that I went through. Now, the movie was all Hollywoodized up, but that's essentially the program that I went through. But my point is, I didn't have any guidance as to how to go. I just decided that I wanted to go to school, I wanted to study technology, I wanted to learn to fly, and I decided to go into the military. And I went into the military at the time when Vietnam was winding down. All the college kids were protesting against the war. And here I am, a college kid, getting ready to join the military. It was not an easy time, but something inside of me told me that that's what I needed to do and that's what I should do. And lo and behold, some 30 years later, I can stand before you as a retiree from the military and from NASA, having flown in space 2 times. Now, where I'm going with this, where I'm really going on this is not so much to talk about what I've done, but to say that what the Gateway Eagles is doing is providing a much more systematic way of introducing young people to engineering and technology than I had. I didn't have any Gateway Eagles. I didn't have any people to bring me to the airport and to guide me and mentor me and show me along. I sort of stumbled along on my own. But the efforts of the Gateway Eagles and all of you who are supporting their efforts is going to provide opportunities for many, many more young people to realize the dream of flight, to realize the dream of technology, of engineering, and so on. And I think that's wonderful. That's what we ought to be doing. Every generation ought to have it just a little bit better than the generation before. So my thanks, my congratulations once again to the Gateway Eagles on not only 10 years, but having 10 years worth of contributing back to our community through our young people. Thank you so very much. Before I finish up, because I did say I was going to make some brief remarks, let me say a couple other things. This year has been a really tough year for myself and for my wife, Marilyn, because back in February, we were coming back from the gym one Saturday morning, turned the television on, and what we saw across the screen were several contrails where the space shuttle used to be. And as soon as I saw that scene, I knew something was wrong. You shouldn't have several contrails, you should have one. I knew immediately that something was wrong. Well, we lost 5 good friends on that space shuttle. We knew all of the American astronauts personally. I did not know Colonel Ramon from Israel, but I knew all of the 5 Americans, and I had flown in space with one of them, Dr. Kalpana Chawla, the woman from India, KC. I flew on Columbia with KC back in 1997. We spent 16 days in space together, and I flew the T-38 airplanes with KC many, many times. So that was a real sad event for us. And over the months, the sadness has continued to return because I would get asked many times to comment on what's going on with the investigation, and I just commented recently for MSNBC on what's going on with the investigation and return to flight. But it's events like this that sort of offset the loss that I felt when Columbia went down. Because when I saw those students this afternoon with their bright eyes, those who had just stepped out of airplanes, who had the opportunity to experience flight, that warm feeling, it made me feel good because I knew that our future was bright, our future was safe, and even though we suffer these little setbacks in our program, we have young people coming along who are going to pick it up and take it forward. And Jack just got through making some remarks, and what he didn't tell you, I don't think, is what he told me today is he's getting ready to retire pretty soon. Well, I retired from the Navy just a few years ago. Well, see, when you get to be our age, you start moving on off to the sidelines. You don't get to fly the high-performance machines anymore and do the new testing of new technology. But some of those youngsters this afternoon, you know, who knows who might emerge from that crowd? Who knows what kind of a test pilot might emerge from one of those youngsters this afternoon? Who knows what engineering advances they may make? Or who knows what else might be achieved? Somebody in that crowd may become a medical doctor. Somebody may discover a cure for AIDS in that crowd. Somebody may discover a cure for cancer in that crowd, all because of what they were exposed to today due to the flying that was held by the Gateway Eagles. So let me finish up my remarks one more time and just say how appreciative I am for the invitation to be here with you tonight. To the Gateway Eagles, you've done a job well done. You are a class act. Congratulations once again on 10 years. Thank you so very much.
Let's give him a hand. We got a real American hero here.